And so we can start by introducing ourselves. So we both work at Transit. My name is Kara Schexter, and I work on the partner success team in our service delivery department. And Elijah can.
I'm Elijah Heron, and I work on the transit analyst team, which deals mostly with the static data. So I was responsible for integrating everything and updating everything to do with Ireland.
It was a really fun project, and so that's why we're both excited to be here to talk to you guys more about the app, how it works. And I know there are some people interested in the technical side, so we're going to be more than happy to get into that. Yeah, as Gary said, we're based in Canada. We're in Montreal. So if anyone has ever been to Montreal, we live here. We love Montreal. If you're here, let us know. We have a great office and we love visitors. So yeah, with that, let's get started. If anyone has any questions at any point in the presentation, please interrupt me, raise your hand, put a question in the chat, and I'll be checking all those things. So yeah, we'll get started. So just to give you guys some kind of background on the app, we are live in over 300 metro areas in 16 countries. You can see, Dublin over here and Montreal somewhere here. There's too many dots to really see. But yeah, Transit is 11 years old now, so that's a big milestone for us, and live in Dublin for not all of those years, but we're very excited to now be launched in Dublin. So Transit is really designed to get you from A to B without your own car. We aim to integrate as many mobility options in one app, and it's available for free in the iOS and Android app stores. There are some people kind of joining as we talk, so welcome to everyone. Yeah, we'll just keep going, but for all the newcomers, if you have any questions, just jump right in. Just to show you guys the kind of user growth we've seen in Dublin, it's been pretty great to start. So this is measuring monthly active users. So that's unique users using the app kind of throughout the whole month. So you can see in May, it was just under 2,000. And in July, it was just under 8,000. The Dublin Commuter Coalition we started our the trial of Transit101 in like late July. So I think we'll see a big spur of growth kind of in August. So looking forward to that. And I'm gonna start by talking about some functionality, and then we'll talk about Transit101. We'll talk about kind of how we work with GTFS and how we do different integrations in transit. So to start with kind of the functionality, this is the home screen or the main screen of the app. So it's what you see when you kind of first open the app. And I'll go from the top down. So here you see the settings. This is also where your Go avatar is going to live. So you can see your kind of cool avatar there. This is your kind of current location in the map. So you can see that based on this location here, you're going to see all of the nearby transit options. You'll also see the bike share integrated in the app here. You can see how many bikes there are, if there's electric bikes or not. This dot is blue, which lets you know that it's in your current location. If you were to kind of pan the map a little bit, it would turn purple, which is letting you know that you're not in your current location anymore. This here is the search bar. So this is green, also letting you know that you're in your current location. If you were to move it, it would move the map. It would also turn purple. This is how you can plan a trip or look up transit options nearby a different destination. This is the instant trip planner. So as you kind of save favorite locations, we'll let you know kind of how long it'll take to get to those destinations at a glance. And then here you'll see all of the transit options nearby. You'll see all of the next departures here. These departures are all in real time. You can tell that because they are bolded and have these little real-time waves. But if there's no real time available, we'll fall back to scheduled departures, which I will talk about in a bit. You'll see here the kind of line you're looking at, and then you'll see the direction that it's going. You can see for the red, there's branches, so that's why we're showing 3 departures in case you're going to, one of these destinations, but not the other. But for the 145, for example, only one direction. And then underneath, you'll see the stop here. To see the other direction, you're going to swipe left or right on that line. And this is just an illustration of that, just that behavior of, swiping left or right. This is the route detail screen. So basically when you tap on any route from the main screen, you're going to see this next screen, which gives you like a whole bunch more information. You're going to see, your location and kind of walking directions to get to the stop. You'll see where the bus is in real time, as long as that is provided to us by the transit agency. Basically, I should have started with this, but all of the information we show in the app is coming directly from the transit agency. We ingest, GTFS and also GTFS real time, and that is how we're able to display all of this in the app. So this here is the bus location. This 22 seconds here is the last time that the bus location was updated in the vehicle positions feed. It is not the next ETA. Sometimes people write in and say that they think that is the ETA of the bus, but it will not be coming in 22 seconds. In fact, it will be coming in 2 minutes. This is the actual ETA of the bus. So we'll show here the next 3 departures, and then you can tap on more departures to see kind of the full schedule. You can scroll down and see all of the next stops and the potential connections you can make at those stops. And then you'll see here again the direction. You can swipe left or right to see the other direction on this screen as well. You can see that these are the kind of the 2 dots. This is letting you know that you're looking at one direction and not the other. And then underneath here is the stop name. This here I'll talk about in a little bit. It's kind of a crowdsourced survey feature, and this is us displaying kind of the results of that survey. And then here is a kind of real-time identifier tool for users to kind of be sure of what information you're looking at, which I'll talk about in the next slide. This here is a useful feature where you can pin a route. So you can just maybe use a route a lot and you want it to come up like at the top of the list. You can pin it, and then as long as you're in like a reasonable distance to that stop, you'll be able to see that route at the very top of the list. So that is a good tool. I'm not currently in Dublin, so I can't use this feature, but if you are, in your current location, you can start Go from this screen as well, which I'll talk about in a little bit as well. So this is that slide talking about real time. So if you tapped on this kind of real time versus schedule, this is what you would see, which is just trying to help users, identify where data is coming from and kind of what it looks like. So basically we have real time, which again is provided by the transit agency, also scheduled time, which is provided, also by the transit agency, but is not real-time departure. There's also canceled departures, which I don't think we've seen any come through for Dublin, but it is an option. If that was sent to us in the real-time feed, we would be able to show a canceled departure. I also wanted to note here that sometimes users will look at kind of the scheduled departure, and then when it's a scheduled departure, it's very possible the bus will be coming not at that time. Maybe it's early, maybe it's late, or unfortunately, maybe it won't be coming. I heard there's been some issues with ghost buses in the Dublin area. That is definitely something we see here in Montreal and around the world as well. There's, a big driver shortage going around. That's, worldwide, something we hear from our agency partners all the time. And that can lead to things like ghost buses. So a good thing as a user is to look at kind of what information you're seeing. And, you know, if it's a real-time departure, it is more likely to actually come compared to a scheduled departure. I'm gonna look at the chat. I see some questions. No-show bus. Yes, exactly. So that is kind of something that is on the transit agency. So I guess my advice would be to kind of let the transit agency know when you see a no-show bus. You know, if you give them like all the information, like where it was, when it was, and like what time, they should be able to look into that on their side. But there isn't really much we can do in terms of reporting that to the transit agency directly as a third-party app. Question from Gary, when you pin a route, will it only appear if you're near the original stop from where you pinned it, or will it appear if you're anywhere along the route? Great question. It'll appear anywhere along the route. So you are pinning the route and not the stop. And so that means, yeah, once you pin, like, for example, if I wanted to pin the 26, it wouldn't only show, you know, when I'm at this stop, it'll show up at the top of the list, any stop that route serves. And this is a feature Transit developed. It's our machine learning prediction engine. So it's not currently turned on for Dublin, but it's something we're looking into. And we basically use machine learning to improve bus predictions. So we use kind of the vehicle positions provided to us, and then we use our machine learning algorithm to potentially improve predictions. Basically, we will run it for kind of every single trip. And if we notice that our prediction is more accurate than the one provided to us by the transit agency, we'll show ours, or, you know, vice versa. We'll always show kind of the most accurate information available. So that's something to stay tuned for. If we do turn it on from the user perspective, we will let the user know for each trip if we did use this prediction engine. We'll let the user know, and you'll see kind of this purple ball to let you know as the user that this was provided to you by transit. There's a blog post about this actually that I didn't include in the slides, but I will send in the follow-up email so that you can all take a look if you're interested. I'm seeing questions. When will it be available in Dublin? It's something we're looking into. Basically, we want to make sure it's useful. So if we find that our predictions are more accurate, then we'll turn it on. But if we find that the predictions we're receiving from the transit agency are pretty accurate on their own, then there's kind of no need, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt, just to go a bit deeper on the cancelled bus kind of functionality. So there's a comment there from Cormac about reporting ghost buses. Is it correct that when you're using Go, you can indicate whether the bus showed up or not?
Yes, so that is a feature. So the reason I didn't mention that is because basically through the Go feature, you're able to answer certain questions that transit uses just to like crowdsource information. And there currently isn't like a setup system to be able to share that information kind of with the transit agency. And so for now, it's just like a way to collect data, but it's not like super actionable right now. And that's why I suggested to like report it directly to your transit agency.
Okay, but would that feed into that? You had an example there of 75% kind of the reliability of the service?
Yes, so that so there's different questions. Well, we'll jump ahead. Maybe I'll actually talk about that when we get to that, if that's okay.
Sure. And just a final question. You said that some transit agencies will push data to say a service is cancelled. Is that, but maybe Dublin isn't doing that, any of our providers. Is that something that's common in other cities? Is that the norm?
It honestly depends on the transit agency. It depends on the real-time provider. So it's like you're able to really just send it through the GTFS RT. and then we'll automatically kind of mark it as canceled like you see here. But that's more kind of on the provider side if they're, firstly, if they're able to know that it was canceled ahead of time, and then also kind of send that out in that format.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I'm not sure from my experience using the old Dublin bus app or the TFI app if that was ever data they pushed out if a driver was sick or something and wasn't going to make the route that day. I don't know if they ever pushed that out, or that's probably the route of a lot of our ghost buses, is that the data. I think I've heard maybe Belgian, that they did have a system where somebody would update that day to say if
Yeah.
something canceled.
No, it was available on the TFI Live app and the app before that. It wasn't always available on the Dublin Bus app, so there was an issue of people using the old Dublin Bus app and not realised something was cancelled when that data was available on the TFI's app. There was also an issue of them not pushing that data out.
To the bus stops.
Yeah, no, as in the buses were cancelled, but only half of them were actually marked as cancelled on the system, which it affects you guys, the transit, which it affects the NTA data on the TFI app, it affects the Dublin Bus app, it affects everything. So there were at least issues with them not marking cancelled services properly. But there was also issue with some of the older apps that we had not showing the cancelled data even when it wasn't.
Okay, cool. Thanks for that, Belgian. So yeah, Kira, I guess later on when you talk about the Go functionality and how you get real information, we can come back to that topic.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll say just from like our work with different transit agencies, mostly here in North America, ghost buses, canceled departures is something that every agency is struggling with. I mean, the driver shortage is definitely worldwide, and that can, obviously impact service and result in things like canceled departures and ghost buses. So it's definitely a known problem, and common kind of everywhere. I don't know if that's helpful, but it is kind of what we see here as well. Yeah, so now I'll kind of talk about our trip planner, kind of how it works. Basically, I mean, we have a whole trip planner team of 3 members who really just work on, improving and maintaining the trip planning algorithm. We always aim to show the best 3 transit options first, and we'll also show kind of multimodal options if available. And then we'll also show like all of the other kind of mobility options, walking, ride hail, bike share, anything like that. So this is an example of a trip plan in Dublin. You can see that you got these first 3 trips, and then you also have the option to see more trips. Then you also can, walk, bike, and this is kind of hidden, but this is the bike share. So you're also able to see, how long that would take you. And for the bike share, we do take into account, like, if the station near you has availability, like we won't send you to an empty station from the trip planner. Something noteworthy is here, on both of these, actually, you can see that you take a bunch of different buses. It's not just the one. And so we're always going to show you that in this way. You're going to see like the different options you can take. So you would tap on this trip plan, and then from there you would be able to pick a different option, whether it's like the frequency or the path is a little different. These are basically other options that will get you to the same place. There's no multimodal options on this particular trip, but it is something that would show up if it is, helpful to that trip plan. You can customize different parts of your trip plan. You can tap here, which take you right to your settings. Gary and I were chatting, and he asked if there's a way to, customize, like, I want to walk more and then take the train, for example, instead of buses. And that's not currently possible. But what you can do is enable different modes. So maybe if you wanted to only take the train, you could definitely disable all bus options. And then that would, kind of accomplish that goal. So that's something you can definitely play with in the settings here. Service alerts are something we're not currently receiving in Dublin. But if, the agency is able to send those to us in their GTFS RT, then that's something we would, automatically pull from the same way we're getting the real-time information. And then we would be able to, display that to the user, and users are also able to subscribe to get push notifications whenever the agency posts a service alert. So this is not currently live, but, incoming, hopefully one day, that would be great to, send those communications out. This is a feature, we call it the holiday service change preview. It's basically automatically triggered in the back end. We basically read the GTFS to see kind of what changes are coming up for a given holiday. So this is something that's live, and something that you'll be able to play around with for the next holiday. In terms of accessibility, we noticed that about 3.7% of transit users globally have enabled, some type of accessibility. So some type of accommodation in the settings. There's different things that you can do in the app. The app is, compatible with screen readers. We also have dynamic font in iOS and Android, so you can, make the font bigger if you need, and things like that. We will also show accessibility information. So that's also provided in the agency GTFS. And then we'll be able to show not only like which buses are accessible, also which stops, and then that gets taken into account in the trip planner if the user has enabled that in their settings. Another accessibility functionality is the Go feature, which I will talk about on the next slide, but I see a question. Is there any plans to add more bike share options for Dublin? For example, Bleeper, Mobi, and Tier operate within various areas of the city, and they have APIs. That's definitely something we would consider. Are those scooter companies or bike share specific, like e-bikes?
They're bikes. Yeah, I don't know if they have scooters as well, but they're definitely bikes.
Are they dockless or docked?
They are most of them are dockless. I think the ESB have docked ones. They're like charging stations for their bikes.
Yeah, Bleeper and Mobi are dockless, but they're required to be locked to a public bike stand.
Got it.
So there are fixed locations where they can be, but they are dockless, and the locations can be made available, I think.
Yeah, Tier, you can only park in set spaces that show up on the app, so that must be data they have.
Yeah, so the way we work with kind of micromobility, bike share, scooters, and all of that is through GBFS, which is another data standard, similar to GTFS. And that's how we were able to integrate the one bike share system so easily. So it's something we'll have to look into. I'll make a note to see kind of what's available, if this is like open data, and like how it works, and see if it's possible to integrate. But I'll talk more about specifically GBFS and how we work with GBFS in a little bit.
I will also note that we did look into a few of these, and we weren't able to locate the GBFS feed. So if you guys have links to them, feel free to send them along, and we will definitely work on it.
Cool. And Kira, just on the accessibility,
Mhm.
do you know if any of the Dublin providers or Ireland providers send that information about accessibility?
Elijah's actually checking right now in real time. So we will get back to you in a couple minutes.
Cool. Yeah, I'm not sure if Belgium, if you know that was ever information that was available. I don't know how honestly great accessibility is, but Irish transport, there's definitely issues around private bus operators, whether they have availability or not. So I'm be surprised, I guess, if the data is there.
Yeah, so just by looking at it, they're not providing it. This is a problem because it's a lot of these accessibility fields aren't required in the GTFS, so they're optional, and a lot of bigger agencies will not provide them, as I think they don't want to update them, whatever reason they have. But this is one big part of trying to develop relationships with the agencies, is we can push to have these integrated.
Okay, that's good. That's great information to have. It's something we can probably follow up as well as as a coalition to kind of support people with accessibility needs. That's something that is maybe we talk about accessibility a lot with public transport, but we probably miss something like this, like the data files that they're sending out as APIs. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
I'd just like to come back to the whole live tracking thing when it comes to transit. There's one wee thing I've noticed about the app using it the last week or so. It's just been that, you know how for the buses you have the live location of the bus showing up and being updated every minute or so. As far as I know, Irish Rail has similar enough information available in the form of an API and on the website as a wee map, but that information isn't visible on the app when it comes to DART services. So I think that might be something worth looking into, just because it'll make the whole issue a whole lot better when there's delays on the line and all that, which does happen fairly frequently.
Yeah, definitely.
So sorry, which feeds are you not seeing real time for?
That's the DART feed. Essentially, it's
Yeah.
you can sort of call it metro. It's just a light rail, not light rail, but
Is it that you can't see the live, or is it that you can't see the train on the map?
it's about train location. So if I look at the buses, what happens is that it
Yeah,
shows where the buses
so
are, but then for trains that's not the case.
Irish Rail literally doesn't know where their trains are. That's the short answer to that. They only check in basically at the stations, so there's signaling upgrades ongoing. I think it's been discussed a little bit in the Discord, but they don't actually know where the train is. So that's not transit. That's just straight up, they have no clue.
Right.
Sorry.
I just find it interesting because, you know, they provide a live map on the website, so that's just straight up made up, or
Yeah, my impression is that it's just, oh, it checked in here. It takes about 5 minutes. Here you go. And I could be wrong on this,
It's
but
coming from signaling, I think, as
yeah,
opposed to yeah.
it's which
So
may
yeah,
or may not.
Irish Rail has a map on their website which shows you the live locations, but how live that is up for debate.
Yeah.
It's somewhat of a guess, but it's also using signaling data. So like it checks in every couple of minutes as opposed to every couple of seconds. So it's not GPS data. I don't know if you can access that data, but because it is on their website, there is a map on the Irish Rail website that shows it. But yeah, it is something that I've noticed that you don't have the live location for that, but Irish Rail shows something like a live location on their website. I'll link it to you now, actually.
Yeah, so we do have a couple of feeds where we do sort of interpolated locations that aren't accurate, but how useful that is and how much we're able to do that is up for discussion, I guess. We can look into getting it from the website, but it's really important that they have frequent enough refresh times so that we're able to get it often enough so it's usable.
Maybe another point to come back to when we jump into Go, that if there's people on the DART or the train and they have Go activated, then that's probably a good substitute for live information.
Exactly, and that's actually the next slide. So perfect timing. So yeah, Go is a pretty core feature of the app. I would say it serves three main purposes. So the first one is it's like your your step-by-step trip companion. So basically you'll plan your trip, or you'll kind of pick the route you're on and you'll tap Go, and then we'll let you know, when to leave your house. Once you're on the bus, we'll let you know when your stop is coming up so you don't miss your stop. We'll help you with your transfer and things like that. So it's really useful, whether you're unfamiliar with an area or even if you are familiar, to just, zone out on the bus. The second thing it does is it will anonymously crowdsource that vehicle location. And that's exactly what you said, Gary. It allows us to kind of create real time, because we are using the user's location as that source of the vehicle position, which allows us to create the real-time prediction. This is not a substitute for a CAD AVL system, but it is really good in addition to an existing, CAD AVL system and real-time being sent to us at Transit, because we are able to improve existing real-time predictions and also create them kind of out of nothing. So I think You guys as the kind of coalition, if you make an effort to use Go on every one of your trips, like that would definitely help out anyone else using the app on that same line, on that same trip. But again, not a substitution for a system. Those are the first two purposes. And the third one is these kind of instant surveys in Go that we were talking about earlier. I realize we're kind of running short on time, so I'll go a little quickly over this and we can come back to anything at the end. I think the most interesting one for the group is this one. So basically, when you're in Go, if we notice that you didn't get on the bus we were expecting you to, we're going to ask you what happened. So you're able to say, it never came, it was a ghost bus, it passed me by, or actually I'm on board. The third one is to, help us improve our kind of Go algorithm. And so this is a really good way for, users to report ghost buses and pass ups and things like that. But there's no established path for us to send this to the transit agency currently. That's definitely something we're, open to exploring. But right now, we're just kind of collecting the data.
I wonder, Kira, in the future, as you collect more data, when it becomes substantial, could you consider sharing it with the coalition as, a kind of summary report? And then maybe when we're talking to different providers, or I don't know, even ministers, whatever the odd time, we might have that information at hand then to say to them, look, we have a kind of on good authority that this is the reliability of the service.
Yeah, totally. It's something that we can definitely talk about as, our presence in Dublin grows.
Cool. And just a quick question, is it possible when you're on a bus to just say, oh, activate Go, or do you have to like plot in your journey and kind of say what route you're going to be on, or can it detect?
That's a great point. No, it can absolutely detect. So that's why I mentioned it kind of in this slide. Like I don't see it. So if I'm like here, for example, like I don't see Go because I'm not physically there. But if you're physically there, you'll be able to tap Go. And then the app will determine that you're on the bus and start and move you to Go mode within like a minute.
And you just like confirm which bus you're on in case a few buses drive along that road?
It'll match what bus you're like, which trip you're on based on your movement and like what time it is.
Okay, cool.
But yes, I see a comment here that you can say you got one bus instead of the other. That is also true. Like, for example, if you're taking this trip and you take the C2 or the 26 or the 52 or this. And so because it's already kind of programmed in Go, we'll be able, if we're not sure which bus you're on, we'll be able to ask you so we can confirm which bus you're on. So this is what it looks like while you're in Go, like what the interface looks like. This question here is like, did the bus come when you expected it to? And that one, as well as the star rating, is shown back to the user kind of in real time. So you're able to see like how other users are reporting the bus's kind of reliability. So that's pretty neat as well. This is our help page. I don't know if anyone here has seen it, but it's super useful. It's fully searchable, and it has documentation about all of our features. So I do recommend checking it out, and let us know if you have any questions. The best way actually to let us know if you have any questions or to report a bug or if you have a feature request or really anything, we have a really amazing user support team here at Transit. And so this is kind of the flow to report a problem or again, anything else. So you can always email us. The email is info@transitapp.com. You can kind of see it here. But especially if you want to report a bug, if you send the email through the app following these instructions, it's going to give us like a debug report, which kind of gives us a head start on the issue. So that's super helpful for us. So you tap on, your settings here, then you tap on the transit icon and then email us. And that's going to, give us that debugging information. I see another question. Well done on creating a great app. Thank you so much. I am obviously not the developer, but I will pass that along. That's very kind. Is it possible to search a specific stop on the app, which would show you the next bus is due at that stop? Yes. If you know the stop number, you can type that in to the kind of search bar here. And then and it should pull up the stop, like the stop name. And then you can either long press on the result, or you can tap, there's like 3 dots next to the result, and you can tap show nearby lines, and that will bring you to that stop.
You can do it by name as well.
And you can do it by name as well. So yeah, if you know the number, you can look that up, or name if you don't. I realize I misread that. You wanted a specific stop and not a stop name. Number 2, does that answer your question, Pat? Perfect. Number 2, is it possible to see all active buses on the map? Unfortunately not. That is something that has been debated at times, and we've decided that it is really hard to tell what bus is what, like especially in a big city like Dublin where there's like a million buses coming around. You wouldn't really be able to identify which bus is which. If you want to see all the active buses on one route, that is definitely possible. You can search up the route and then tap on the route, like you'd search it here and then just tap on the route, and then you would see all of the active buses on that route. It is like directionally, so you'd only be able to see one direction at a time, which again is because there's no easy way to differentiate like if a bus is going in either direction. So it's better to just show like one direction at a time. Number 3, does Go just track you when you board a bus, tram, or follow your journey? How does it benefit those further down the line if you've completed your journey? That's a great point. It's only while you're on board and you started Go. So it's important to say the app will never, I mean, it's always anonymous, but the app won't track your location unless you've, really started Go and given that like explicit like consent. And once the app is tracking your location through Go, it is only tracking it for the duration of time that you're on the bus or tram. So it benefits those down the line, like at the same time as you're on. So, I mean, if you're taking a really long bus trip, it's super beneficial to start Go because you'll be able to help a lot of riders. But if you're taking a shorter trip, it'll, benefit maybe less riders or for smaller amount of time is kind of the difference. Is it possible to set an app-wide walking speed? Yes, that is a great suggestion. I would actually recommend submitting that feedback here so that it can go to our user support team because there's not a current way to set an app-wide walking speed. But what you can do is if you are in Go on your trip plan, you can set your walking time. So for example, the app says it takes 5 minutes to walk to the bus stop, but like, it takes you 2. If you're in Go, you can customize that, but it can't customize for like the whole duration of the trip, if that makes sense. You emailed and didn't get a response. I'm sorry about that, Thomas. We do get a lot of inquiries and we do our best to answer all of them. I would recommend maybe emailing again. We'll take a look on our end about the 7:35 route. But if you could email again, I mean, things happen. Maybe it just got lost in the shuffle, but we really do our best to, answer all inquiries. Yes, Patrick, it will show you all the buses. And that's in case you want to take one of those other buses. So in your example, yeah, exactly. Like we'll give you like the most like optimal one. But maybe you'll actually end up getting the 46A, 145, whichever. And so in that case, we want it to be obvious that you can pick a different one and get on and that it would work. Onboard security is an issue. That's a great point. the onboard security, but unfortunately, that's also something that you would have to relay to the transit agency, the specific provider, because they are the ones that, you know, handle onboard safety. Okay, great. We have 10 more minutes, and I have some slides on Transit Royale. I think I'll skip through them. I'll just skip to kind of how we work with GTFS. And I'll kind of go quickly through so we can have more time for questions at the end. And we do have a little bit more time to stay over if anyone else, you know, has more questions. So no worries about that. Actually, I won't skip all the way through. You know, the Dublin Commuter Coalition is offering free Royale through our partnership. So that's a super exciting initiative. This is kind of what it looks like in the app. It's gonna, you know, give kind of the enhanced version of the app to all riders. And you also get access to fun features such as customizing your Go avatar, so that when you get points when you ride Go, you get to like claim that title. So that's a super fun feature. And now I'll skip ahead to GTFS. So this is just kind of an infograph of kind of how we work with all of the data that we consume. So basically like how we work with static data, how we work with real-time data, how it all kind of relates to each other. I won't actually go through it all. I think it's something you guys can kind of look at when you get the slides, but we'll go into all the specific types of data now. This is a document that actually Elijah was working very hard on. It's kind of GTFS best practices and like how we work with GTFS and like best tips for providers. Definitely more useful for the actual transit agencies, but also something if you're curious about GTFS, it's very well written and easy to consume. So take a look. I also wanted to mention that we do collect, you know, a whole bunch of data, all anonymized, and there's potential opportunities to kind of work together to share some of this data. So if anyone has like a specific project in mind, it's definitely something we can talk more about. This is just some examples of different data that we collect, like user locations, origin, destination, that can be useful for, you know, trip planning and service development and things like that. We collect really like a whole bunch of data. So instead of getting into all of it, if anyone does have something specific, it's something that we can definitely talk more about.
Yeah, it'd be great. We've talked a bit in the coalition about maybe getting involved with a bit more academia, and you know, sometimes academics will reach out to us to get information or as a contact point. So it'd be nice to be able to work with you guys as well to kind of connect them to say like if they're doing a project on transport within Dublin or Ireland, that they could get access to some of that data and play around with it.
Yeah, it's definitely I don't want to like promise anything. It's definitely like a case by case basis. But we're always happy to, you know, talk and find out what they want and if we can help.
Do you find with some cities or some transit agencies that you're kind of teaching them a bit, like they're really starting from scratch in terms of providing a service, and you're giving them the best practice, like this is how you put together real-time data, or a lot of transit agencies, it's like their bread and butter and they always do this themselves?
I think it depends. I think Elijah might have different opinions than me because he's more in the data. But I'm actually not sure if this works the same in like Ireland and Europe, but in North America, there's a lot of third-party data producers. And so transit agencies will contract that out to like a CAT AVL provider or like a fixed route kind of provider who will handle all of that kind of for them. And like translate all of their schedules, you know, into a GTFS, or, you know, set up all of the hardware to like actually track the buses and do the real-time predictions. So I think it kind of depends on the transit agency and, you know, obviously their resources and if it's contracted out or not. I don't know if you want to say something else.
Yeah, I mean, it, like Kara said, it definitely varies from agency to agency. And you know, there's a specification, but not everybody follows it as closely as others. You'll get some third parties that do extremely well, but you'll find maybe a smaller agency, you really have to walk them through it, which we're actually very happy to do, as we at Transit are quite involved in producing the specification as well. So we all try to be as experts as possible on it. And yeah, some agencies handholding, some filling gaps, and then some are just great.
Cool, thanks.
So I'll talk a little bit about the different types of integrations in transit. We can get like deep with certain integrations, such as mobile ticketing, which we have in 60 plus. I think this is even more than that now. In North America, we can also integrate like on-demand service and micromobility. So the only one super applicable to Dublin right now is the kind of bike share integration and potential dockless bike shares that if anyone does have that GBFS link and can send it our way, we can integrate that pretty easily. This is just to kind of go off what we just said about all the different providers. This is an example. This is all the different providers we have worked with. And the list is constantly growing. So in the, you know, micromobility world, there's actually way more than this list. And then in the ride-hail world, the on-demand, fare payment, the CAT AVL, like all of these are different, you know, real-time providers. And we didn't actually put the kind of static GTFS providers, but we also do, you know, work with them when they provide the kind of scheduling service for the transit agency. All this to say, we're really happy to be, you know, the front end. We have designed what we think and what we've been told is a very beautiful, very functional app. And, you know, that's what we're good at. Like, we don't want to be in the business of producing real-time information, produce it, or like actual fare payment, kind of the back end of that. Like, that's not really what we're good at. We would way rather work, you know, with all of these other partners, especially when there's open data and data standards. It's really easy to work with different providers, and it makes for a really great user experience as well. So yeah, this list definitely keeps on growing, which is awesome. I'll talk a little bit about GTFS Flex. This is like an up and coming spec for kind of on demand and like for more rural areas, like a call to book ahead type service. So this is kind of what that looks like in transit. You can, you know, see what the service entails, like it entails going from here to this zone. That's how you're eligible for the service, and you can kind of book ahead. So that's something we're working on. Something else we're working on that has been really a lot of work in something else we're working on that has been a lot of effort in the making is the auto detection of detours. So it's currently only live here in Montreal, but it's something that we are working with different transit agencies to bring to their cities. So just some context for how detours currently work in the app. It doesn't work like this in Dublin because we don't have service alerts, but in the places where we do, it kind of just looks like a bunch of text at the route level. So you can, you know, get an idea of what's going on, but it's not very visual. And so what we were able to do, I'm simplifying it a lot, is use machine learning to detect when there's a detour, when the bus goes off route, and then detect what that route is, where those new temporary stops are, and display that back to the user in basically real time. So this is kind of what it looks like. So you can see this is, you know, the bus path. This is where it used to go, and this is the detour here, and these are all of the temporary stops, and these are the closed stops. So it's a really great feature. It's been pretty game-changing for us as bus riders in Montreal to, you know exactly where your bus is detoured. And what's really cool is we're also able to export this data to an up-and-coming GTFS trip modifications spec, so that agencies are able to, you know, use this data so it doesn't just live in transit. So here in Montreal, the local agency was able to display it on their website as well. So that's been a pretty cool feature here that we've developed. This is kind of an illustration of how it works. These little emojis are just to let you know that using Go kind of augments this. It makes everything more accurate in the app. It does not rely on Go We kind of monitor the vehicle positions to determine, you know, where the bus is going, but it is, you know, more reliable with Go. In Dublin, they usually turn off the real time during detours, diversions, and fall back to scheduled times when it affects multiple routes. That makes a lot of sense. That's something that, you know, we see as well. Sometimes in North America, the CAT AVL systems are able to kind of track the bus even when it's off routes. You can sometimes see on the map the bus is going somewhere else, but depending on the provider, sometimes it can't, and then you can't see that position. So I know that detours are something that every city struggles with. So I imagine it's no different in Dublin. But yeah, that's kind of all the material we have for you. I know we're at time, but Elijah and I can stay on a little bit if there are any other questions. Maybe not, which is totally fine. We want to say thank you. I unfortunately can't pronounce it, but this is what Google told me was in Irish.
Give it a go. Give it a go.
I don't want to embarrass myself.
I think, yeah.
Thank you so much for listening and for all of your hard work. We appreciate it. It's been a pleasure working with you and to continue to work with you.
Yeah. Thanks very much, guys. Sorry to interrupt you there, Elijah.
Okay. Oh, I was just going to say thanks for all the help that you guys have provided with us getting it set up. And initially, it's been extremely helpful, especially as we're not on the ground there. And if we have any immediate issues, you can send it to info and data. There's some stuff we can and can't do. But yeah, if any questions, we're always trying to make it better for riders. So any information is great information.
Yeah, thanks very much from myself, from the committee and members. We've really enjoyed kind of having a new app in the ecosystem. I think the responses have been very positive we've seen from our members. And as we've seen from the discussion, I think a lot of the issues tend to be with the provider, maybe rather than the app. But we're really looking forward to working together closely to see how we kind of evolve it a bit. And hopefully we can get data from you guys to get a better idea of what's actually happening with our public transport in terms of the service. And then we'll be happy to collect information, feedback from our users and members, and share that back to you guys as well. So thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, have a great rest of your evening, everyone, and we will go about our day, which is funny how time zones work. But
Cool.
yeah.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Thanks.
Bye.